Hello class, this is a video on the cardiovascular section, and we're going to talk about cardio pacemakers and cardio defibrillators. I am using a 2014 American Medical Association Professional Edition of the CPT Codebook. I am on page 182, and I do have to apologize to you in advance. I have two cats who like to walk through the video at times, and these are rather lengthy videos, so it's hard for me to redo the video. So I apologize in advance if one of them walk through and join the class. Okay, so page 182, we have the heart here, and I've kind of enhanced my diagram of the heart. If I had a whiteboard, I would draw a simple heart on the board and section it out to your atrial and your ventricular. This is your right atrial chamber of the heart, your right ventricular chamber of the heart, your left atrial chamber of the heart, and your left ventricular chamber of the heart. Now, your heart has natural pacemakers in it. The sinoatrial node is located at the top of the right atrium, and your atrioventricular node, your AV node, is kind of right in the center. So it's at the crossroad of your atrial and ventricular, a little bit to the right. Right, so it's kind of like in the center, where all of the chambers meet, closer to that center. Now what these do is they regulate the actual heartbeat. So the SA node is also the smarter of the two, because it keeps your heart beating at that 100, 110, 115 beats, that regular heartbeat. It also knows that when you're running, it needs to speed up. When you're sleeping, it needs to slow down. When you're at rest, it needs to slow down. So it really keeps the pace. It's the master that keeps the pace. Your AV node, it beats at 45 beats per minute, not really much faster than that. So if you have a weak SA node, your AV node will try to take over, but it can't possibly do the work that your SA node does. So that's when you wind up with a weak heart, and that's when you need pacemakers. Previous to 2 years ago, all pacemakers were right side pacemakers. A single chamber pacemaker was in one of the chambers on the right side of your heart, and a dual chamber pacemaker was in both chambers of the right side of the heart. And then 2 years ago, they came along with left ventricular pacing. So there are 4 or 5 left ventricular codes in the book. Now I will scan in copies of the pages of my book, so you can print those out and watch the video with those in front of you, so that you can follow me and actually follow my notes. You'll actually have them right in front of you. So left ventricular pacing is new. When they talk about multiple leads, and I'm going to explain each component of the pacemaker. When they talk about multiple leads, they're talking about 3 or more chambers of the heart. We haven't gone to 4 chambers yet, but we do have pacemaker systems that accommodate 1, 2, 3 chambers of the heart, and in combinations. You could have a pacemaker just in your right atrium, just in your right ventricular, or you could have it in both, or you could have it in all 3. Or you could have it in 2, the atrium and the left ventricular, or both ventriculars, right? So there's a combination. Now, because all of the codes in the book previous to left ventricular pacing coming along, they were all right. So they didn't have the word right side in them. When they added the 4 or 5 left ventricular pacing codes, they specified left ventricular in them. So if it does not say left ventricular in the code, then it is the right side of the heart. Alright, so a pacemaker has multiple components, a pacemaker system. Okay, you have the actual pulse generator, and there are two kinds of pulse generators. I've got a piece of paper for you, and I can draw it out. Okay, so here is our heart. Okay, here's our chambers, our atrium, our ventricular, our atrium, our ventricular. Okay, here's the SA node, here's the AV node. Okay, now there are multiple components. So when you have a pacemaker system, you are going to have a pulse generator. So I'll just draw a pulse generator here. All right, you're going to have a pulse generator. The pulse generator is also known as the battery. So when you're reading a note and they are changing the battery of the pacemaker system, they're not taking this pulse generator out, unscrewing some little plate in the back and putting a little watch battery in it or any kind of changing out. They are actually changing the pulse generator itself. There are two types of pulse generators. There is the pacemaker pulse generator, right? And so this one here, just a regular pacemaker, a pacing pulse generator, it just is pacing your heart. It's helping your heart keep the normal pace. There's a pacing cardiov defibrillator, and I'm just going to call it a CD for cardiov defibrillator. Right. The pacing cardiov defibrillator also has your heart keeping pace, but if your heart should stop, it jump starts it. That's the defibrillator piece in it. So there are two different types of pulse generators. In addition to a pulse generator, you are going to have electrodes. Their nickname is leads, L-E-A-D-S. They can be given to you in two different ways. A patient can have them in two different ways. They can have them by thoracotomy, so when they actually cut you open, and maybe use an endoscopic device to actually place those leads right into the chambers of your heart, and or you can have them threaded through your veins, and that's the most common way. And so that's called transvenous leads. And when they're going to open you up and actually place the leads in your heart, bypassing your veins and just placing them right into your heart, that's called epicardial leads. Right? So there's two types of leads, epicardial leads and transvenous leads. 98% of the codes in the chapter are for transvenous. There's very few epicardial, and I will talk about them at the very end. I'll cover all the transvenous codes first. Okay, so moving on, you would have your leads, and your leads would go into your heart, and so that would be a single chamber pacemaker. This would be a dual chamber pacemaker. This would be what they call multiple chamber pacemaker, because you have all three chambers, your left ventricular pacing. Okay, so those would be the three types of chambers that you would be hooked up to. So you need to know if it's a pacing pacemaker, single, dual, or multiple lead system, or if it's a pacing cardiov defibrillator, single, dual, or multiple lead system. And as we look at the codes, you're going to see that there are bundled codes for having a whole system put in, including the creation of the pocket, a permanent pacemaker. They make a pocket in your chest to put this in. That is included in the bundle code for inserting a whole system, a complete system going in. Over the years, you could have that whole system replaced. There's codes for that. Or over the years, you may need an upgrade, meaning you came in and you only had one chamber hooked up, but you left and you had two chambers hooked up. Or you came in with two chambers hooked up, but when you left, you were at multiple chambers hooked up. All right? So when you talk in terms of an upgrade, you are talking about you left with more than what you came in with. The patient left with more than what they came in with, more chambers. Or over the years, you could have maybe just leads removed and replaced, or just a battery change. And so there's codes to handle all of that. You also, after an open heart surgery, a patient may need a temporary pacemaker. No pocket is created for that. You would see them threading the leads in and hooking it up to a pulse generator. No creation of a pocket, no insertion of that pacemaker into a pocket or that pulse generator. Right? So that's a general overview of pacemakers and how they work. And so now we can actually look at the codes. So on page 185 is where your pacemaker and pacing cardio defibrillator guidelines begin. Right? And in here, this particular that I yellow, I usually read that to the class. Right? It says a pacemaker system includes a pulse generator containing electronics, a battery, and one or more electrodes. There's the nickname leads. Right? Pulse generators are placed in a subcutaneous pocket created in either the subclavicle site or underneath the abdominal muscle, just below the rib cage. Electrodes may be inserted through a vein, that's transvenous, or they may be placed on the surface of the heart, that's epicardial. The epicardial location of electrodes requires a thoracotomy. So that's pretty much everything that I had just explained to you in layman's terms on the previous page when we were looking at the heart. So you do need to read these guidelines. I don't read the guidelines out loud typically when I'm teaching, but I do point out certain things in the guidelines. All right? Turn the page on page 186. This paragraph right here in that left-hand column, that left side paragraph talks about the left ventricular pacing codes. Come down a couple more paragraphs. Talks about the battery. When the battery of a pacemaker or pacing cardio defibrillator is changed, it is actually the pulse generator that is being changed. And it goes on to explain to you that there is one code. You don't get to code the removal of it and then the insertion of a new one. There is one bundled code. The reason why they point that out is when you replace electrodes, it's just the opposite. You get to code the removal of the electrodes, and you get to code the replacement electrodes that are being put back in. Okay. All right. The last paragraph on that left-hand side, revision of a skin pocket is included in codes 33206 to 33249 and codes 33262 to 33264. You notice that's green. Right? In previous editions of the book, if you're using a 2013 or earlier, Yo is going to say that you are allowed to code the revision of a pocket as well as moving a pocket when they have to close up the original pocket and they have to create a new pocket. They call that a relocation of the pocket. Your book is going to say that both of those can be coded in addition to. Effective 2014, the revision of the pocket is always going to be included. You can only code the relocation of a pocket. So your codes in that area are going to be a little bit different. Okay. And then we come to the top of the right-hand column, and I have highlighted when skin pocket relocation is performed as part of an explant of an existing generator followed by replacement with a new generator, the pocket relocation is reported separately. Right? It talks. These are the original guidelines, and it talks about repositioning and what those codes are. And then down here explains to you what a single lead system is, what a dual lead system is, and what a multiple lead system is. And I just explained that to you on the previous page when we looked at the heart and how a pacemaker system works. Okay, on to page 187, and this is where we see the code starting. This is a little cheat sheet that they've created for you. I strongly suggest that you don't use it right now. If you come to work for a cardiologist, then it could be very helpful. It is the most common combinations. It's not all possible combinations. So you could waste a lot of time looking for the combination of services that they provided in here and find that they're not in here. And then you would have wasted time looking for them. You need to be familiar and feel that you understand coding for cardio pacemakers before this would be really helpful to you. Right? So right now, you could certainly look at it while you're studying and try and figure it out, but when you're sitting for the exam, don't use this unless you've really studied it and you understand it, right? Because it could be a time waster. So let's see. The first code starts right on the bottom of page 186. You almost miss it. It's 33202 and 33203. I'm going to skip over those for now because when you have to place the electrodes for epicardial system, these are the codes that you use. All right. 33202 is for the thoracotomy, and you did it only by thoracotomy. And 33203 is when, in addition to opening them up for the thoracotomy, you used an endoscopic approach to actually get it in there, get the lead in there. All right. So I'm going to skip over those. We come to 33206, 33207, and 33208. Right. This is a complete system going in, and that's what my notes say here. It's a complete system going in. Right. When I draw arrows like this, that's telling me that there are codes that go along with this on either on the next column or the next page. And then I do the same thing here to give me a hint that I am missing some codes that are before this. So these codes, this is the master code, and these are the indented codes. 33206 is a pacemaker system going in. So in the beginning, when I first started learning pacemakers, it was hard for me to find the codes that I wanted and to keep straight which were pacemaker codes and which were pacing cardio defibrillator codes. So I came up with a little color-coded system, and I think I actually have to turn the page to show you the legend. Yeah. So I highlighted the word cardio defibrillator in purple in every single code description, and I highlighted the word pacemaker in pink in every code description. So at a quick view, when I look at it, I can tell if the code is for both a pacemaker and a cardio defibrillator, because the words jump off the page, okay, or if it's just for a pacemaker, or if it's just for a cardio defibrillator. So without even reading the code, I know what type of system that code is talking about, or what kind of pulse generator it's talking about. Okay. So you may find that helpful. If you find another way that works for you, by all means. When I scan these pages in, they're going to be in full color, so you can use them to study and make your notes on these first without having to make the notes in your book. And then once you're sure what kind of notes you want to make in your book, then you can make them and have them in there once, nice and neat. All right, so 33206 is a whole pacemaker system going in, and it is a single chamber atrial. That's the last word here. So this is a whole pacemaker system going in, hooked up to the atrium. 33207 is a whole system going in, hooked up only to the ventricular. So both of these codes are single pacemaker systems. Okay. 33208 is a pacemaker system, and it's being hooked up both to the atrial and the ventricular. These are transvenous systems. When you read the code, it says insertion of a new or replacement of a permanent pacemaker with transvenous electrodes. Why the word replacement is in there? You get a pacemaker and 10 years later you need to have that system replaced. You're going to use this code again. You're going to get to code taking out the electrodes of the old system. You're going to get to code taking out the pacemaker of the old system. But when you code putting the new system in, you're going to have to use the original code if they're replacing the exact same type of system they had. Okay? If when they get it replaced, they are upgrading and they're going from a single chamber to a dual chamber, right? You wouldn't be using these codes. There is an upgrade code for that. So remember that. An upgrade is when you are going from what you have existing for the number of chambers that your pacemaker is hooked up to more chambers, right? So when they come in to do that, you're not in these codes. You are in a upgrade code, and I'll show you that when we move through the pages and come up to it. This is when you either getting your system put in the first time, or you are having the same exact type of system replaced. Okay, turn the page. Right. You have some pictures here. The pictures are of the temporary pacemakers. This one here is a temporary pacemaker. You see it's not going into any pocket. Right? They basically just, it's external. They tape it on or glue it on. And then this is the pictures of the implantation of the actual pacemakers. So this one here, it's hooked up to the right atrium. Right? This one here, it's hooked up to the right atrium and the right ventricle. So these are the temporary pacemaker codes. You got 133210, and that is for the single chamber, and 33211 is for a dual chamber. 33212 and 33213 and 33221. These are the pulse generator, or pacemaker pulse generator going in. Only. That's all you're putting in. You use these codes with 33202 and 33203. So when you're putting an epicardial system in, you do not have a package deal code. Right? The transvenous, you have the package deal code. It includes everything in it for the pacemaker. For epicardial, you have to code the electrode, whichever method is you're putting them in, 33202 or 33203. In addition to the pacemaker code. Right? And so far we've only talked about pacemakers. We haven't talked about any cardio defibrillator codes. 33214, that's that upgrade that I was talking about. Right? It's a right side upgrade. Matter of fact, all the codes we've talked about is only right side. Right? Remember, they're right side only unless the code says left ventricular pacing in it. So this is an upgrade on the right side. So this patient came in, hooked up to a certain number of chambers, and when they left, they were hooked up to those chambers and more. So that's the case where you get to code taking out your pacemaker, taking out your electrodes, and when you put the system back in, you're using 33214 because they're getting hooked up to more chambers than what they originally had. So that's what an upgrade is. That's the difference between 33214 and 33206, 33207, 33208. When they come in to get their pacemakers replaced, they have to be leaving with the same exact thing they came in with. If they're not, if they're leaving with more, 33214. Okay. So 33215 is a repositioning of either a pacemaker electrode or a pacing cardio defibrillator electrode. says right atrial or right ventricular electrode. All right. 33216 is the insertion of a single transvenous electrode, permanent pacemaker, or cardiov defibrillator. Electrode. That's why I wrote one lead in. Right? When you read that quickly, if you says insertion of single transvenous electrode, permanent for a permanent pacemaker. It doesn't have the word for in there, right? But it's for a permanent pacemaker or cardiov defibrillator. So this would be used when they are replacing just electrodes. You get to code the removal of the electrode. So this is one electrode being removed, and 33217 is two electrodes. Wait a minute, is it being removed? Oh, sorry, this is the insertion codes. Okay, sorry, messed up on that. These are the insertion codes. So this is putting them in. We haven't come to the removal codes yet. But when you are replacing your electrodes, you do get to code the insertion of them. So this is the insertion of 1, and this is the insertion of 2. And in addition to choosing your insertion code, you get to choose your removal code too. You get to code them both. All right. Okay, we come up to the top of page 189, 33218. So this is a repair. They are repairing a single transvenous electrode for either the pacemaker system or the pacing cardiov defibrillator. 33220, they're repairing 2 leads for either the pacemaker or the pacing cardiov defibrillator system. Here is the codes for the relocation of your pockets. All right, 33222 is for the pacemaker, the relocation of the pacemaker system. Just they're going to take the pacemaker out. They're going to close up the pocket. They're going to create a new pocket, and they're going to put the pacemaker in there, and then they're going to close the pocket up and hook it back up to the leads if they had to unhook it to do that. All right. So relocation of the pacemaker, and this is the relocation of the cardiov defibrillator pocket. 33224. 33224 is an upgrade to the left side. The difference between 33224 and 33214 down here in the lower left-hand corner of page 188. The difference between them is this upgrade is on the right side. So they came in, hooked up to either the right atrium, or they came in hooked up to the right ventricle, and when they left, they were hooked up to both. 33224 in the upper right hand corner of 189, when they came in, they were hooked up in the right atrium or the right ventricular or both, and when they left, they were hooked up to those same chambers, and in addition to left ventricular. So here's one of our left ventricular codes. All right? And this is for a pacemaker or a pacing cardiov defibrillator. Now 33225, if you have my papers in front of you, if you have the copies of the pages from my book, you're going to see I wrote not an upgrade, used with the initial system code. Let's go back to the initial system code. And notice it's an add-on code. It's got a plus sign there. These are right side. Okay? So let's suppose the first time you come in and you need your pacemaker from the first time, you need it hooked up on the left side as well. You need left ventricular pacing in addition to some right pacing. Right? None of these codes include it. Right? So the first time I get my pacemaker, let's say I need to have it hooked up to my right atrium and my left ventricle. I'm going to use 33206 plus the add-on code 33225. Make sure I got the right code. Yep, 33225. 10 years later, I need to have it replaced, and I'm getting the same exact thing. I'm going to code the removal of my leads. I'm going to code the removal of my pacemaker. And I'm going to use 33206 again with 33225. I came in with it, and that's what I'm leaving with. Let's say I need, on my ventricular, very first time I get my pacemaker, I need right and left ventricular pacing. I'm going to get 33207 with 33225. 10 years later, I come in, and I need to have the same exact chambers need a replacement system, but same exact chambers. I'm going to code the removal of my leads. I'm going to code the removal of my pacemaker. And I'm going to code 33207 and 33225 to put my system back in. Same thing with 33208. 33208, I have a multi-lead system. I needed the atrium and the ventricular and the left ventricular pacing, so I need 33208 plus 33225. The 33225 is what adds on the left ventricular pacing to this. Using that combination, 33208 and 33225, is saying I am hooked up to all three. Atrium, ventricular on the right side, and ventricular on the left side. That's called a multiple lead system. Down here on the bottom of 186, multiple leads. A pacemaker or pacing cardiov defibrillator with pacing and sensing function in 3 or more chambers. We haven't gotten to the or more part, but we have gotten to the 3 chambers part at this point in our medicine, in our advanced medicine. Okay, so it's not used for an upgrade 33225. It's used when you get your initial system put in as an add-on code to add the ventricular pacing. And then if you need to have that system replaced and you're not going to get an upgrade, meaning you were going to leave hooked up to the same chambers that you were hooked up when you came in, then you would use the code combination again, these with the left ventricular pacing. Okay, 33226, that's the repositioning of the left lead. All right, I highlight right here, left ventricular. 33227, 228, and 229, they are out of numerical sequence. They're right here. That is the battery change. So this is a pacemaker battery change. It means you are taking out the battery, not the leads, taking out the battery, the pacemaker, the pulse generator, and you are replacing it with a new one. 33227 is for the single lead system. 33228 is for the dual lead system, and 33229 is for the multiple lead system. You're taking out the battery and putting a new one in. You are not doing anything with the leads. I mean, I'm sure they're going to be testing them and that kind of stuff, but you're not replacing the leads. Oh, before I move the page, the upgrade code. I did want to point out in the upgrade codes, both of them, the upgrade to the left side, 33224, and over here in the lower left-hand corner of 188, 33214, when you read those, you will see that it includes the replacement and the testing of everything. So when you're upgrading, it includes the replacement. And it says right in there, the replacement, the removal of the previous pulse generator, the testing of the existing leads, the insertion of the new leads, the insertion of the new pulse generator. So when you are upgrading, you do not get to code the removal of the leads, the removal of the original pulse generator. All right? You only get to code those when you are replacing the same exact type of system. In an upgrade, it's all included in the code. All right, return the page. This is the last page. Okay, here is where we get to take the leads out. So this is where I had made my mistake a little while ago. 33224 is taking the lead out, removal of a transvenous pacemaker electrode for a single lead system, atrial or ventricular. And 33235 is taking out the dual system. So if you had to replace electrodes, here's the coding for taking the electrodes out. And here's the code for putting the electrodes in. Now putting the electrodes in, they have grouped together the pacemaker and the cardiov defibrillator. Taking the electrodes out, right, transvenous, we've been talking about transvenous codes. They broke it out. Right? This is the pacemaker. 33226, epicardial leads coming out. Right? Not transvenous leads. You're taking an epicardial lead out. So when you're placing the leads for an epicardial system, 33226, to take the leads out, and 33207, that's for 2 leads coming out. 33226 is for 1 lead coming out. And then to put the leads back in, you're in those original codes at the very beginning of the chapter, 33202 or 33203. Right, so that's replacing the leads. The opposite of when you're replacing the battery. When you're replacing the leads, you do get to code removal and insertion. Removing the battery, you don't. Okay, moving on. 33238. These are transvenous electrodes being removed by thoracotomy. So they were put in transvenously, but they can't be removed transvenously. Right? Usually this happens because the leads have grown into the chambers to the wall of the veins. Right? So they can't thread them back out without destroying the veins. So they have to remove them surgically by thoracotomy. So that's what that code is used for. 33240, 33230, and 33231. So this is a pulse generator cardiov defibrillator going in. This code only covers the cardiov defibrillator going in. So it is broken out the same way as we previously seen. 33240 is for a single lead system, where 33230 is for a dual lead system, and 33231 is for the multiple lead system. That's the left ventricular pacing. This is again for the epicardial system. So we had seen when you are putting a pacemaker system in, right? You use the epicardial codes 33203 and 33202 that are in the very beginning of the chapter, and you use 33212, 33221 for the pacemaker, epicardial pacemaker system. When you're getting the epicardial cardiov defibrillator, pacing cardiov defibrillator system, you're still going to use 33202 or 33203. Am I saying those right? 33202, yeah, and 33203. You're still going to use those to put your leads in, right? But you're going to use 33240 or 33230 or 33231 for your cardio, your pacing cardiov defibrillator pulse generator, depending on how many chambers you're hooking them up to. Okay. All right. So 33241. This is taking a cardiov defibrillator out, taking only the pulse generator out, and 33262. That's doing the battery change for the cardiov defibrillator. So 33262 is the first code for battery change for a cardiov defibrillator, and that's the single system. And 33263 is for the dual lead system, and then 33264 is for the multi-lead system. Right, so this is a battery change. Again, when we take the leads out, we get to code the removal of the leads and the insertion of the new leads. But when we're changing the battery, the pacemaker battery or the cardiov defibrillator battery, that is the pulse generator, and it's in one code, removal and reinsertion. We have a coding tip here. You can read it. It will give you a little bit of information. If it does confuse you a little bit, shoot me off an email, because sometimes when people read these little coding tips, it confuses them a little bit. Okay. All right. So 33243. This is taking the leads out for the cardiov defibrillator for a single or a dual chamber. Right. A little bit different than the pacemaker. When we looked at taking the leads out for the pacemaker, right, they broke it out, right? So let's see, right here, 33215. That's reposition. Here we go. 33216. That was taking. Nope. That's again. Sorry. The insertion. I messed up. The insertion is both for the pacemaker and cardiov defibrillator, but let's see. Taking them out. They're taking them out. Here we go. I turned the page for no reason. They were right here. All right. So they're taking them out. They broke it out for a pacemaker, right? For the pacemaker system, taking the leads out to 1. Or to taking out 2, right? Whereas for the cardiov defibrillator system, they don't care. They lump them all together. You're taking out 1 or multiple or dual. It's 33243. Doesn't matter. And they did the same thing with the whole system going in. So when we looked at 33206, 33207, and 33208, those were your pulse generator and your transvenous electrodes going in. Your whole system for the pacemaker, right, at the beginning. You had 3 codes. Cardiov defibrillator system going in. you don't have 3 codes. Right? It doesn't matter. It says single or dual chamber. Okay? It doesn't matter. So we got 33249. And so that's your whole cardio defibrillator system going in. And if you're getting this replaced, all right, and you are getting the same exact cardio defibrillator hooked up to the same leads into the same chambers, so you're leaving with the type of system you came in with, right? It's not an upgrade, right? You get to code the removal of your pulse generator. You get to code the removal of your leads using the removal codes that we already looked at, and you code 33249 for putting the system back in.